Hello, hello everyone. Welcome, welcome. As you can see from the background, we're probably going to be doing some standing and walking today. Hopefully you were not thinking that you could just sit around in meditation today. Come on. I'm Dr. Jared Jones. My specialty is ancient systems of meditation, the cognitive science of meditation, and Buddhist philosophy. For those who are new and might watch this later, I've been meditating for about 20 years, almost every day. Completed some retreats, done some training programs in Buddhism and Taoism that were quite serious. And my whole shtick is that I'm trying to make meditation much easier for people living in the real world. And having tried dozens of different methods of meditation, I've boiled it down to just a few that I think are quite powerful and effective for lay people. And I have good reason to think they work because I do them and they work. And the people that I've taught them to have said that they are the most effective techniques they've ever tried. So hopefully, if you stumble upon this later or you're watching this live today, at some point you will feel the same. Let's see. Cleric, good evening. Good evening. Good evening. Yeah, I did start an hour later. As you might recall, I said I was thinking I might move it, excuse me, that I might move it to an hour later just so that people in different time zones might have an easier time of it. I think by the time we get about halfway through, I think America and Australia and certain parts of India might be online. So we have 3 people in the chat. Who's here with us today? Cleric? Is it John? Wushu Man? Natty? Sam? Or are you strangers? Okay. So what's on my mind today is that I was I've spent a good 50 hours, I would say, working on the next video that's about to go up. And it is all about masters of meditation, great masters of meditation from the Tibetan tradition, who have all completed long periods of retreat, or most of them have completed long periods of retreat and submitted themselves to interviews, which is quite surprising. And to my great surprise, there was, hey, John. To my great surprise, I had forgotten how much they said because I had watched this before, and I had forgotten how many incredible things that they said. I mean, it was just shocking, the things that they admitted to on camera that they would normally never say. So really, really pleased with how this has turned out. Hopefully the yeah. Hopefully the I've been doing a lot of research on how to get my mic to work properly and my camera to work properly and what types of editing software make things look nice. So hopefully the production quality will, will be high enough that it doesn't look like an entirely amateur production. Okay. And you'll have to forgive me the clickbaity titles that I'm going to start putting on everything because YouTube apparently won't show anything to anybody unless you put a clickbaity title on it. So I've got to start doing what YouTube wants, apparently. Okay, so do we have questions about meditation now that a few people are in the chat? Someone, I will not say who, someone, I will not say who, reached out to me today and was asking about uh, they were asking about the field of taste, the tactile, I mean, so the gustatory field. And we had a short but meaningful exchange that is applicable to all the other 5 external sense fields. So the question was basically, when they meditate on opening the gustatory field, the sense of taste, when they try to make that awareness be like a mirror and to be fully open, that they notice that there's already craving for flavors like sweet or fatty foods or something. And what's really important to remember about opening the senses in general is that the 5 external senses don't have any desire. They don't want anything. They don't want to get rid of anything. They are themselves simply cognitive activities, let's say. They're cognitive mental factors. They don't generate conceptual minds, which include emotion. So they are non emotional by nature. What is emotional and what generates emotional states that are based on concept, at least the Buddhist concept of concepts, is your 6th awareness, your mental sense, your mental consciousness. That's what generates emotions and thoughts. So when you're concentrating on opening the sense of taste or opening the sense of smell, opening the sense of sound, vision, tactile, etc., none of those should involve, when they're open and you're resting on them, none of those should involve conceptual thinking, including things like desire or aversion. Those things are that a desire aversion is coming from the 6th consciousness. That is mental content. You see? So the emotion is something appearing to your mental consciousness. That's mental stuff. So when you're meditating on the 5 external senses, those are non-conceptual consciousnesses. They don't have any thoughts. So when you fully, let's say that you fully land the plane on the tarmac of visual consciousness, you land on the island of visual consciousness, it has no thoughts or emotion. That's how it already is. You just never noticed. Same thing with hearing and so forth. The only consciousness you have that has thoughts and emotions is mental consciousness. So when you're meditating on the 5 external sense gates, or any one of the 5 external sense gates individually, if your mind generates a thought or emotion, you have lost the object of meditation for that period of time. So you only have a certain bandwidth of attention. You only have a certain bandwidth of mental awareness to devote to your various activities. And you're attempting to pool all of your attention when you open just one sense gate. Right now, your attention is kind of like this, right? And it's spread out all over the whole system. And when you bring the attention into one sensory field, you're attempting to sort of look through the pinhole, so to speak, and only see what's happening there. And that should take up all of the bandwidth, every bit of the bandwidth of your mental awareness. So this is a very, very important thing, which is why I'm raising it. And I'm hoping that from bringing up stuff like this is actually the benefit of having a community. The reason that the Buddha said, for example, that having friends and companions on the path, having virtuous friends, mentors, and companions on the path, he said, well, let me back up. Venerable Ananda came to him and said, "Isn't it wonderful that your friends and mentors and companions on the path are half of the holy life?" And the Buddha said, "Oh, don't say that. Don't say that, Ananda." He said, "Your friends and companions and mentors on the path are the whole of the holy life." Think about this. I mean, normally I think in Buddhist circles and meditation circles, we think it's just about me sitting down and doing the practice, and that's the whole thing. But according to the founder of one of these great systems, you have zero of the thing unless you have community, which is really interesting. And the reason for this is that there's a wonderful analogy that Thich Nhat Hanh described on one occasion, or not Thich Nhat Hanh, maybe Ajahn Amaro, Ajahn Brahms. Anyways, he said that he was at a monastery and he had sweet potatoes, and he was taking the sweet potatoes that were covered in dirt from a farm, and he was washing them by hand one at a time. And the abbot of the monastery came up and he said, "No, no, no, stop, stop." And he took all the sweet potatoes and he put them in a bucket, and he poured water into the bucket, and then he shook the bucket. And he shook it for a little while, and then he pulled the first potato out and it was perfectly clean. And he said, that's the spiritual community. We think that our practice is washing ourselves by ourselves with all the water of the practice until we are better by ourselves. If you have a spiritual community, instead of taking forever to wash all the dirt off, you just sort of bump into everyone else in the community and they help you wash all the dirt off really quickly, all together. So this is why it's the whole of the holy life. When you have a community, to put it in less poetic terms, somebody asks a question that is extremely relevant to your situation, your training, your understanding, that would have never occurred to you to ask, but because they asked it, it changes everything. And almost every time you get together, someone in your community asks one of these questions. And over the course of weeks and months and years and decades, being around all these other people that help you correct all these little errors that you have and misunderstandings and things you hadn't thought of, makes your progress go well, makes your practice go well. You see? So because someone asked a question today, everyone else gets to avoid the mistake that the one person made. And later it'll be someone else who asks a different question, and the person who asked this question today will get the benefit of the error or the insight that that person had too. This is what our community is for. So hopefully that helps. Yeah, it's really beautiful. You know, we all help each other because we're just bumping into each other and washing the dirt off, you know. We're all in the same water. It's an analogy that stuck with me for years. To take of hundreds of potatoes, right? To take each one and wash them by hand is a huge task. But to put them in a bucket and just shake it for a little while, you clean all of them. It's incredible. And so each one of us, if we just are struggling alone, it takes forever to do stuff and fix stuff and make progress. But if we do it together, all of us improve way more quickly together, including me, by the way. When you guys ask me questions, I have to look things up. I have to think about it. I have to look at my experience. Sometimes I have to ask my teachers, and my understanding and my practice improve. Coming here to train with you, my practice improves. So this is how it works. All right. A lot of people in and out today. Why don't we do some practice if there are no new questions? So per the usual, we will begin with a bit of breath practice to get the mind into the body and out of wherever it's been. So for anyone who might be new, the main technique that I teach, that I call Foundation 1, comes from my primary guru from the early days of my practice, who had a background in both Zen and Tibetan Buddhism and was considered to be highly accomplished in both. And as simple and straightforward and seemingly basic as this approach is, it is extremely, extremely profound and works very, very quickly. So the approach is quite simple. We'll just start by breathing in. Breathe in a little bit heavy. Find the patch of skin inside your nose that has the most sensations. You're going to place your attention on those sensations. You don't imagine, you don't visualize, uh, you don't analyze anything. You simply place your attention there and be aware of the actual tactile sensations. And then to increase your ability to notice when you've lost your focus on the object, we're going to add one more element. So you're going to visualize the number 1, and then the number 2, and then the number 3, and so forth every time you reach an exhale. You're going to count from 1 to 7, and then 7 back down to 0. And you're going to do that 3 times. So 1 to 7, 7 to 0. 1 to 7, 7 to 0, right? Counting at each exhale. When you visualize the number 1, also say inside your mind, for example, I'm breathing in. No, don't say all that. So you breathe in and you breathe out. When you get to the end of the breath, you visualize the number 1 briefly, just briefly. It doesn't matter how clear it is. And in your mind, you say the number 1, 1, very forcefully, very loudly, very intensely. And then you return to the breath. And this will give you way more feedback on whether you're losing your focus, because if you've lost the count, then you've lost your focus on the object. This technique really, really, really improves the first 2 stages of training in concentration. All right? So let's begin. So breathe in. Find the patch of skin. Without any delay, without any screwing around, don't adjust your body, don't change anything. It's only 5 minutes. You sit still for 5 minutes all throughout the day at various points without adjusting your body, so don't screw around with it. Place your mind on the breath. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, begin. Adjust yourself a bit. Okay, let's do a body scan. Left foot, left ankle, calf, knee, thigh, hip, right foot, ankle, calf, knee, thigh, into the hip joint, front of the pelvis, back of the pelvis, including the buttocks, tailbone, anus, perineum, and the sexual organ. Come to rest at the tip of the organ. The front of the waist, the back of the waist, front of the diaphragm belt, back of the diaphragm belt, front of the chest, and back of the chest. Your left shoulder, bicep, elbow, forearm, wrist, palm and back of hand, thumb, pointer, middle, ring, and pinky. Right shoulder. Bicep. Elbow. Forearm. Wrist. Palm and back of hand. Thumb. Pointer. Middle. Ring. Pinky. Bottom third of your neck. Middle third of your neck. Upper third of your neck. Back of your scalp. Left side of your scalp. Right side of your scalp. Left ear. Right ear. Forehead. Left eyebrow. Right eyebrow. Nose. Left eye. Right eye. Left cheek. Right cheek. Your upper lip area. Lower lip area. Your chin, rather. Your top lip. Bottom lip. Inside your cheeks. Your teeth. Roof of your mouth. below your tongue. And your tongue. Follow the tongue back to the throat. Follow the throat up and find the scalp. Find the most sensitive point on the scalp. Stretch your awareness down to both hands, 3 points. Stretch your awareness down again to both feet, 5 points. Okay, come to a standing position now. And I can't stand with you and give you the instructions because of how my mic is. If someone wants to buy me a lapel mic, I can do that. I come to a standing position. Your feet are going to face forward like this. And as if you had no pinky toe, you're going to point both feet forward, not splayed in, not splayed out, straight forward. Somewhere between hip distance, which is about here, and shoulder distance, which is, of course, at your level of your shoulders. Bend your knees to the point where you feel most of the pressure about here on your foot, just between the two toe, the first and second toe, towards the ball of the foot. Most of the pressure there. And that should naturally, as you come forward, bring your hips to sort of settle at the bottom of your body. And just mentally feel for a moment that there's a really heavy weight hanging from your perineum. And try to balance that weight on those 2 points on your feet, right? Behind the ball. Now relax that weight and just keep your legs where they are. Bring your attention up now to the crown again. And just imagine again that there's towards the back third of your crown, so not in the middle, but the back third here, that there's a balloon attached there. And it's pulling your head up gently. Keyword gently. And then as that pulls up, it's bringing your chin down slightly, but don't pull your head back like a military person. Just let there be a feeling of lightness to the head. For the arms, As I said before, a quick and easy hack: 2 thumbs up, turn the thumbs all the way down and twist, and then you rotate these out until your thumbs are pointing as far behind you as you can. And then just wiggle your shoulders a bit until they settle down and relax into the sockets. And then you're going to take your arms and just relax them down at your sides. And your palm, instead of being like a noodle, the palm will have just a little bit of intent in it to be open. And then you're going to rest your middle finger on your thigh on both sides. And having it in that position will stretch the fascia of the body just slightly and will allow you to stand more comfortably. Okay, so now being in that position, the head slightly lifted, the perineum pointed downwards, most of the weight somewhere between the back of the ball and the front of the heel, but mostly here. Meditate on the 5 points. Crown of the head, bring the attention down to the hands. Crown of the head, bring the attention down to the feet. And now I'm going to join you. Okay, welcome back. Welcome back to reality. While we are settling back into being in a seated posture and winding up for the day, standing practice like this has been a mainstay for internal Chinese martial arts and Qigong, Neigong. The Shaolin monastery has a number of practices like this as well, which is a Buddhist monastery, of course. And these practices, even though you're not doing anything, supposedly, as you have probably noticed, end up being quite demanding physically. So, having your feet feel hot or like you're standing on hot plates, like they're burning, is normal. Feeling electrical sensations or shooting pains coming through the legs is normal. Of course, there's a difference, and you have to learn the difference between having the normal pain of standing meditation and having the pain of an injury that is building up or is starting to occur. So, whatever sensations you're feeling should be something that goes away within a few minutes for the most part after you're done with the session. Now, you may have some muscle tiredness or slight joint discomfort after doing these practices because you may not be standing properly most of the time. And these exercises, just standing like this in a neutral posture, will completely change the way your body works. It's mind-boggling. Also, if you have health problems and you're trying to do something low sort of extremely low impact to improve your health, it will shock you if you just do standing practice like this, how much your physical health improves. It will give you the endurance to do running somehow, for example. Just standing and standing properly without moving completely changes the way that your body works. I really can't talk it up enough. In addition to that, there are all of these other postures and things you can do that to work on certain issues if you have certain health problems. But that's not something that I cover in the meditation techniques that I teach. What else? What else is important? Let me say a little bit about fascia and connective tissue, because this is quite important. So, when you're learning to sit, doing standing practice will help your sitting because you're training your fascia, which is like rubber bands, and your ligaments and tendons, which are like rubber bands. You're training them to maintain a position and to be strong in that position, not through tensing, but through stretching slightly. Not through stretching intensely and actively, but through stretching through extremely minor intent. So when you place the attention here on the foot, for example, and you press the foot into the ground, it stretches slightly. And because the heel is pressing into the ground like this, right? Also, because the foot is flexed, you've stretched the calf slightly. And because the hips have shifted forward like this, you've stretched the front of the thigh slightly, even while you're using it to hold your body up. And because you've lifted the head, you've stretched the spine slightly. Head going up, perineum going down, right? So you've stretched the whole center of the body. And then by opening the palms slightly, and allowing the arms to hang in their natural position, you've stretched through the length of the arm to the fingertips. So now the whole body is like a bag full of rubber bands that are slightly stretched. And what happens when you stretch a rubber band is that it gets firm, right? When it's relaxed, it'll noodle around. But if you compress it, it gets firm, and if you stretch it, it gets firm. So normally when you contract a muscle, you're compressing the tissue to make it firm, and that's how you make this strong to do something. The other way you make your body strong to do something is by slightly stretching it. So this is why, for example, if you put your hands behind your head like this and you take your elbows and start to stretch them back, right? And then you feel here in this area, you'll feel that the tissue that's stretching to pull your arm back, even though you're not tensing those muscles, is firm. So when you stretch the tissue, you can make it firm. And for you to be able to stand or sit for a long time, the tissue needs to be firm. But it needs to be firm in a way that doesn't demand that you're using a lot of muscular effort. Because if you're using a lot of muscular effort, you won't be able to sit for a long time. Is this making sense? So learning how to stand trains your body to learn how to stretch all of the tissues just slightly in the right way so that they can maintain the weight of your body with absolutely minimum muscular effort. And this is one of those sort of, again, one of these golden keys, one of these magical keys to being able to sit longer. Just doing standing practice will allow you to sit longer, as well as improving your general health, as well as surprisingly, shockingly, making you stronger. I mean, again, it's just so weird the way that standing practice works. We could spend a month just talking about standing. What else? To tie it into what we normally talk about, which is how to take your practice into real life, we're learning how to take our practice off the cushion and into regular activities. I hope that those of you who did this practice with me yesterday had some sense that it was a little bit easier today. Maybe not easy. No, it's not just in case you're standing for a while. This is a radically transformative practice by itself. Yeah. If you want to be stronger, faster, have better cardiovascular health, have a body that's more comfortable in general, to have your body, one of the things that people who lift really heavy weights talk about. Good. I'm glad it felt easier. So when you look at people who lift really heavy weights, one of the things that they deal with is how to use their whole body to generate the power to move whatever it is they're going to move, not just by clenching, but by sort of activating the long chains of muscles and tissue that are in the body. And this one little tiny stupid looking exercise of just standing still with proper posture actually trains your body how to connect up all the tissues. And because of that, when you go to use your body, it's stronger. So again, it's just remarkable. The Chinese martial arts community and Chinese medical community in this regard, absolutely brilliant. You know, this is one of those, I hate to say it, but sort of life hacks, you know, that's no matter how old you get, probably you can do this practice and it will make a dramatic difference within months, you know, to your overall well-being. And it helps you sit. So furthermore, it also trains you over time how to take your practice off the cushion. So as I said yesterday, just to reiterate, you start by being able to generate a state of concentration while sitting, because that's the easiest, most advantageous. If you're laying down, you'll probably get too sleepy. So sitting is better. You're alert, but doesn't take too much effort to maintain the posture and so on. Standing is a little harder because you have to use more effort to maintain the posture. If you stand properly, the way that I'm trying to teach you guys, then the effort of standing is less, and therefore you can it'll be easier to generate concentration once you get used to the posture. Also, you're learning finally how to get into a deeply concentrated state while standing, which is a bridge to being able to do it while walking. Then once you can do it while walking, you can start taking it into more complex activities like your work, for example. As I always say, unless you're driving a car or operating heavy machinery or, trying to cross the street, etc. And anything where your life is on the line or your limbs are on the line, just do what needs to be done there in a normal way. Okay. Don't do your training in those circumstances. So as you gain more competence, more ability in being able to sit, stand, walk, and generate increasingly good states of concentration, then as somebody was telling me throughout the day today, they said, I was sitting in the car listening to music with my friends, and I opened the auditory gate, and it was really interesting. So like this, you will learn through training in in Mahamudra through Foundation 4. You'll learn how to work in more and more little micro sessions of training the mind to a high level, because you'll get used to being able to generate profound states of concentration while sitting, while standing, while walking, while doing other activities. And whatever is appropriate to the circumstance, instead of just listening to the music, you can open the auditory sense gate. Instead of just eating your lunch, you can open the gustatory and the olfactory sense gates. Instead of just having intimate relations with your partner, you can open the tactile sense gate. Instead of just going to the gym and working out, you can open the tactile sense gate. And eventually also, when you gain some skill in rumination meditation, which is learning how to think through things in a state of concentration without losing your thought, and then how to hold and rest on the conclusions, which can either be generating a particular emotional state, for example, or generating a particular understanding and then holding that understanding. So this is rumination meditation. Once you get good at that, I was talking to some potential new students at India just before I hopped on this session with you guys. And one of the examples that I used is when you're at work, sometimes you need to be confident, and sometimes you need to be humble and completely receptive to whatever's being said. Normally what happens is somebody criticizes us, for example, and we get tight. You feel tight in your chest, and you're like, your neck tenses up, and maybe you start to feel flush or hot and frustrated. And because of this, you can't even begin to assess whether or not the criticism is valid. Maybe they're telling you something you really need to hear that's going to make things better, but it goes over your head because you couldn't generate the right state of mind on demand when you needed it. The state of mind you needed was humility, but instead you generated self-consciousness, embarrassment, frustration, defensiveness. Yeah. So as a result of that, you won't excel at work, because the people above you will go, oh, this person's difficult. They don't follow instructions well. They don't take feedback well. This is not the kind of person I want to advance in their career. I want people who are confident when they're doing the stuff that they should be doing, because you can't be second guessing yourself all the time in the midst of your whatever you're doing. And then I want somebody who is humble and receptive when I need to give them feedback. And this is what your boss wants from you, right? They want you to carry on and soldier on and do your very best with the best mind you can when you're working. And then when you screw up or you need feedback, they want you to be receptive and open to the feedback when it's good feedback, right? But in either case, having an attitude of humility will solve both things. Well, on the one hand, maybe you have a boss telling you something that you don't need to hear. Still, having the attitude of humility there will stop you from saying stupid stuff like, I don't need to hear this. Why are you here? What's wrong with you? Right? It'll stop you from saying these dumb things that will get you fired or stop your career from advancing. And on the other hand, if they're saying something that you really do need to hear, you can go, wow, you know what? You're right. I hadn't thought of that. I'm going to put that into practice first thing tomorrow. And they go, this person's on it. And then when you actually do it tomorrow, they're like, man, this guy's really on it. This is the kind of person that if he keeps going like this, we can start promoting. And again, I say this with actual humility, but I want to give you a practical example. I worked for a period of time at Bank of America and Merrill Lynch. I was being trained as a financial advisor, and within an 8-month period, I was in the top 5% for the people in my training group, right? And the reason for this is I listened to what my bosses said, and I took the very best of their advice and the very best of my senior colleagues' advice, and I did the stuff that worked really well. And the things that I thought I could improve on, I tried those things. And when they sucked, I took it on board. And when they didn't suck, I did it more. And so these skills you're gaining for rumination, for example, to be able to generate whatever internal state you need, translates immediately into actually having a better quality of life and potentially advancing in your career, having better relationships with people in a totally normal sense, not some weird spiritual sense. So I was telling him this, if you want to advance in your career, what you need is to train in meditation. But that's not the typical advice you would get, right? Oh, so through these skills, you then learn how to take more and more of this into your real life, which is, of course, what I've said to you for the last 14 days. You're probably getting tired of hearing it. Yeah. The thing is, I genuinely want all of you to do well. Not just with this stuff. I want you to have good relationships. I want you to have good relationships with your parents, with your friends, with your significant others. I want you to do well at work. I want your neighbors to think you're the person that they can rely on if something went wrong. You know? That when you see an old lady on the street who's struggling to carry her groceries home alone because there's nobody in the world to take care of her, you don't just walk by. You go, hey, can I help? Can I do anything for you? Maybe she says no, which is fine. But I really want things to turn out well for all of you. That's why I'm here. And the fact of the matter is, the more things are like that for you, the better you'll be able to do this training and the more progress you have the potential to make. Of course, if you had $1 million or you were making multiple millions a year, that might become a distraction because you could spend a lot of money doing a lot of stuff that you found pleasurable, right? One of my teachers, my main guru, used to say, of course, training and meditation will help with the bad times, but what it's really for is the good times, which is interesting advice. Of course, we all know that during the bad times, we're going to have trouble doing our practice. But what you really need to prepare for is also the good times. Preparing your mind and your motivation that during the good times, when things start to go better or you have more things that you like around, that you will carry on doing the training that helped you get to those good times. You know? Okay. I don't know. Yeah, I think that's the Dharma talk for the day. Do we have any questions? Okay. Well, my friends, I do hope that Dharma received. I do hope that each of you at some point will reach out to me through Facebook Messenger, for example. The link should be down below somewhere. It really does help. I was talking with these gentlemen in India today. It really does help to have some time to talk properly talk and to see each other roughly face to face, at least through a camera. Uh, I'll tell this story, and that will be how we end the day. So there's this beautiful story, and I can't remember if it was Ajahn Amaro or Ajahn Brahms or Thich Nhat Hanh. I can't honestly. I can't remember which monastic told this story, but they said at one occasion they were assigned to kitchen duties at the monastery, and they had to wash all these sweet potatoes, a big pile of sweet potatoes. And so they were taking the sweet potatoes one at a time, and they were washing them in a sink or something. So they were just washing them by hand, and it was taking a long time. It's a lot of potatoes. They're dirty. They have sand on them, the dirt on them, whatever. They're fresh from the farm, I guess. And the abbot comes and watches for a little while, and then he says, no, can I show you? Can I show you how to do this? And so he takes a whole bunch of the sweet potatoes and he puts them in a bucket, and he fills up the bucket, and he shakes it like this for 30 seconds or a minute. And then he reaches into this murky, dark water, and he pulls out one potato, and it's perfectly clean. And he says, that's the spiritual community. Most of us think from day to day, it's just me struggling with me, and I get some instructions, yeah, but I'm just sort of alone, struggling and doing my thing as an individual, and that's how I make progress. Actually, what the Buddha said is, when Venerable Ananda came to him, when his attendant came to him and said, isn't it wonderful, dear Buddha, isn't it wonderful that our comrades and friends and colleagues and mentors on the path are half of the holy life? And the Buddha said, and when he says something twice, it's a big deal. He said, don't say that, Ananda. Don't say that. Our friends and colleagues and mentors on the path are the whole of the holy life. That's the whole of the holy life. And the reason is because it's like being in the bucket, right? All of us are covered in our problems, our misunderstandings, our lack of ability to do stuff. And if we just try to wash ourselves alone one at a time, it is hugely laborious, difficult, painful, takes forever. But when you put us all in a bucket and we bump into each other, and somebody asks a question, and somebody, like I was saying earlier, then, yeah. I'm just now realizing that I completely told this whole story at the beginning. Oh man, that's how I know it's been a long day. In any case, yeah, you guys get the point. For some reason, I thought I had told this story on the call, but now I'm just realizing I told it here. Someone should have told me in the chat. Oh man. Well, now you'll definitely never forget this story. Okay. Well, everybody, good to see you again. Drop me a line through Facebook Messenger so that I can, at least for the regulars, I can chat with you one-on-one a bit, and eventually get on camera with you and just say hi and get to know you each and every one of you. And that applies to you who don't tune in when I'm live. Find me on Facebook, send me a message, and let's chat. This is how I learned. My main teacher for many years, we went to coffee shops, we went to his house, we had phone calls, and we just talked things through, so that the day-to-day of really trying to do the practices, the day-to-day of how to apply this stuff to your life, the day-to-day of the little minutia, the little odds and ends of trying to actually do the practices, that you don't spend months and years You don't want to spend months and years sort of milling around with the wrong understanding, wrong practice, wrong direction. We've been chatting for years. Offer John. Offer John. Well, I can't see who you are behind the. Hold on. I can't see who you are behind your profile information. Yeah. You have to. Anyways, we can take it offline, but you have to send me a message so I can see more carefully. I can't. YouTube is terrible for trying to figure out who people really are. Okay. Thank you for coming. I will see you all tomorrow. Okay. Cheers. Hope to see you soon.